From eerie late night encounters to bone chilling tales that simply defy explanation. Tonight's compilation will have you questioning every crack and every creak that you hear, every shadow and every whisper that comes about. These are stories that will stay with you long after the ending. What's good? What's good in the YouTube hood? It's your girl, Luna Nova, and I'm back with another one for y'all today. Welcome back to the Mystic Muse, where we dive into the creepy, the unexplained, and the unusual. And of course, with tonight's compilation, these stories don't disappoint. Tonight's compilation, we're going over unexplained phenomenon, unsettling encounters, and straight up strange things that just simply can't be explained, and tales that blur the line between folklore and reality, although sometimes they're the same thing. So grab you a drink, grab you a snack, and let's go ahead and get ready for this creepy compilation that you don't want to miss.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Okay, so I have not told many people this, but when I was probably around 10, my older brother, who's 4 years older, used to stay at his mentor's house, who was a pastor at a church, very well known. The house that he lived in down in the city, we already knew quite a few people had passed in the house, like his mom, the pastor's mom, and a few other people who owned the house before him. Before going there, my brother would tell me stories about what would happen to him while he was there, and I didn't really believe it. I was 10, but I stayed there one night with him, and we were sitting on the couch watching TV. There was 2 couches, kind of like L-shaped. I was on one corner, my brother was on the other corner. There was nobody else in the room, and I felt something kept pulling my hair. And I told him, I was like, Jimmy, stop pulling my hair. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm all the way over here. And I was like, it clicked in my head. There was nobody around me. Who the hell is pulling my hair? And then all of a sudden, it pulled the shit out of my hair, and I fell over on the couch. That really freaked me out. And my brother stood up and he said, stop messing with my sister. And then it stopped for the rest of the night. That night, I went to sleep, and I slept in the main bedroom on the floor next to the bed on a little blow-up mattress. I remember waking up in the middle of the night, and I was laying on my side, and I happened to look under the bed, and I seen, it looked like an older lady staring at me, kind of looking upside down under the bed. And at first I thought it was the pastor's wife, Miss Paula. And I said, Miss Paula, are you looking for something? She said, I'm just looking for shoes. I was like, oh, okay. And I rolled over, and a minute later, Miss Paula actually walked in the door to wake me up that morning. And I told her, I was like, were you just in here? And she says, no, I was in the kitchen. I was like, oh, okay. I just seen some old lady looking at me under the bed. And she was like, oh, that's just my mom. And I was like, taken aback for a second. Your mom is not living anymore. That was the second encounter with some spirits in that house. The third time, there was a basement in the house with craft supplies and all kind of knickknacks down in the basement. There was always a video camera set up in the corner of the basement. For a while, I thought it was very weird until my brother showed me the footage on that video camera. And let's just say I'm kind of shaking as I'm thinking about it. It was not human. It was not friendly. And it would throw the camera across the entire room. It would make scratching noises on the steps, because it was wood steps, very old house. And it was the scariest thing I've ever fucking seen in my life. That was not the end of it. They also had a dog that passed away. His name is Magic. Upstairs in the attic was also another crafting room. I was up there in the attic coloring the next day and, making pictures and stuff. And I felt something licking my leg, like a dog licking the side of my leg. And I looked down and there was nothing there. And I was thinking to myself oh, oh, here we go again. There's something else fucking weird happening. Yeah, come to find out, it was their dead dog licking me, trying to say hi. ever since then. I have never returned to that house. Weird things have happened to me slightly since then. Not a lot, but I will never forget that. And till this day, I believe in spirits, always. I know they're around. That was a crazy time.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
This isn't like the stuff that I normally post, but I really want to do this trend. I actually have a lot of ghost stories from my life, but this particular one is also about the Ouija board, like the original poster. So I was 17 years old and I had my first like long-term boyfriend. And we were both really curious about the Ouija board. We had been told stories growing up, but we wanted to find out for ourselves. And so one night, I had purchased a Ouija board from Toys R Us, which is crazy to think about, that you can just buy this portal at a kid's store. That no longer exists. Anyway, I'm going to go on tangents because that's how I am, but I'm going to try not to. I buy this Ouija board and he comes over to my house. I'm 17 years old. There are rules for the house. He was allowed to be in my room, but the door had to remain open at all times. And he usually had to leave by like 10 o'clock at night or something like that. Also, I was told throughout my life a couple of times that I was not allowed to play the Ouija board in my dad's house. So now that you know that, let's continue. My dad worked graveyard shift at the time. So he went to work and I was a good kid and I was trusted to just do what I was supposed to do. But this night I didn't. We were gonna find out if this Ouija board really worked. So everyone went to bed. It was definitely after 10 o'clock at night and my dad's at work and we go down in my room, and my room was in the basement. And the way that you would get to my room is you would go down the stairs and it would lead you into this big living room. And back in the left corner of the living room was the door to my bedroom. And the only light switch for the living room was right after you came down the stairs and you first entered. So I would have to turn off the lights and run through a dark living room every night when I went to my room. And when I got up in the morning, I'd have to turn off the lights in my bedroom and walk through a dark living room up the dark stairs. Just keep that in mind. So we're down in my room in the basement and we're setting up the Ouija board, and we set it up on my bed and we're sitting cross-legged and we light candles and we turn off all the lights. I don't remember reading the instructions because apparently it was really important to say goodbye. I'll get to that. So we set it all up. We're sitting cross-legged. We both put like 2 fingers on the planchette, like really, really, really lightly. We decide we're going to focus and meditate on the question, will anybody talk to us? So we do. And it takes a long time. Our hands would get tired. We'd have to like shake them out, but we just stayed like in this mental state that we were in, and we would chant it out loud or just internally, will anybody talk to us? After about 30 minutes, the planchette started to vibrate under our fingers. And I started to feel at that time a weird, energy starting to flow through my body. And the planchette slowly started to make its way over to the word yes. And the stronger that the planchette moved, or the faster it moved, the stronger I felt this strange, uncomfortable energy within my body. So we both look at each other like, oh my gosh, holy shit, this is real. And then we decide we're going to ask if it's a spirit who's talking to us. So we do. And the planchette moves a little faster this time, and it leaves the word yes and circles right back around to it. At this point, this energy in my body is just flinging from head to toe through me, and it almost feels the way I would imagine the static on an old television set when you go to a channel that doesn't exist. That's kind of what it felt like this horrible static just flinging through my body. Never felt it before or since. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure about this. And we decide to ask, are you nice? Because of course I need to know, right? And obviously it shoots over even faster this time to the word no. And this is where I decide I'm done. So I'm like, that's it. And I go to grab the board, and the board will not move. It feels like someone's standing on the board because I'm yanking on it and it's not moving. And I still, to this day, when I think about it, my logical mind is like, did that happen? But yes, it happened. And finally, on like my fifth yank, I threw my whole body into it. And it suddenly felt like something had stepped off of the board because the board just flew up into the air. I slammed it down into the box. My boyfriend was just pale as a ghost, and he's looking at me wide-eyed, and he's like, I need to go home. And I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't leave me here. I'm so scared. And he's like, no, I really gotta go. And I'm like, oh crap. So I take him upstairs, walk him out of the house, lock the doors behind him, go back down into my room. But this is where it gets really messed up. My room does not feel like my room. And I know that sounds crazy because obviously it was my room. It was all my stuff and everything. But I felt like I had stepped into a parallel universe, and I was so far away from all that I knew that was comfortable and good, and like, I just felt so far away from everything, even though my family was right upstairs sleeping. In some ways, I've never been so scared in my life. And I just felt so detached and so far away from the rest of the house. And my room didn't feel like my room. And I didn't sleep that night. I'm not religious, but I grabbed the Bible because I didn't know what else to do. And I just laid there with the lights on. I guess I drifted in and out of sleep somehow. But I slept with the lights on in my room for like a week. It took a couple weeks for my room to start to feel like I could be in it comfortably, and I could actually spend substantial amount of time in it, which sucked because my room before that was like my sanctuary, and I really just messed it all up. I did not tell my parents because I didn't want to get in trouble, but stuff started to happen. So that night when I was done with the Ouija board, I had set it outside of my bedroom door on top of this bookshelf. And in the morning when I would get up for school, I would open my door into the dark living room, and I would see the silhouette of a black cat run from the light into the dark really fast. And I would like blink and shake it off and think that it was just, my mind playing tricks on me. And I would tell myself I just hyped it all up in my head, and I made myself all freaked out because I was trying to rationalize what I had done to the house. I didn't want to accept that I really haunted it, or that I really changed things, or I invited something in. But clearly I did, because about a month after me seeing like the black cat, I'm upstairs at the dinner table, and my young sibling, my sister, she was like 7 or 8 at the time, out of nowhere, she goes, I keep seeing a black cat in the basement. And I'm like, oh my God, it's real. I really did this. And the basement continues to feel weird and messed up. And then another month passes. And then my dad says to me, I'm really upset because our basement feels really funky. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, when I bought this house, one of the reasons I picked it was because the energy was really nice. And he was like, there was no negative vibes in the house. And now for some reason, when I go into the basement, it feels so messed up. Like it is so bad. And he's like, and I don't know why. And pretty sure I started to cry, and I told him, and I was like, oh my God, I have to tell you something. Me and my boyfriend played the Ouija board in my room, and it's haunted now, and nothing feels right. And he's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no. And he's like, why didn't you ask for help earlier? And I'm like, because I was scared of you. And he's like, I'm so scary. I'm scarier than like an evil spirit in your room. And I'm like, yes. So my stepmom threw the Ouija board away, and stuff kind of started to calm down after that. But to be honest, even though the house feels a lot better and the basement isn't nearly as scary as it was, it's never fully gone all the way back to the way it was before I played the Ouija board. And occasionally weird things do happen in that house, not negative feeling so much like around that time. But yeah, I don't recommend Ouija boards. And if you do play, always make sure you say goodbye.
Me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
So, first time I ever do a TikTok has to be this. And will I do another TikTok? Probably not. But loads of people have been coming forward, and I thought, fuck it, let's do it. When I was 22, me and my then fiance, now husband, had moved in together into this quaint little cottage which we were renting. We couldn't afford to buy. And it was in the arse end of Suffolk, and my husband was working nights part-time at this kind of chemical lab, which sounds really scary, but that was what he was doing because he's a clever clocks. Basically, I was starting to work from home, so I was home alone all the time. It was so great. This was a 2 up, 2 down kind of like old farmer's cottage-esque thing. And you know the feeling when you walk into like a bar, an old man's bar, and you kind of walk in and everyone's like, who the fuck are you? Really felt like that. The energy was thick with it. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. And I am 1,000,000%, need to make this very, very, very clear, the kind of person that if this didn't happen to, I would be like, nah. But unfortunately, this happened to me. For the first couple of weeks, nothing happened, which is great. I just thought, no, it's just a weird vibe. Living away from my mum for the first time, need to get used to this. And again, I've been from uni into sleepy Suffolk. Nothing happened. Until things started happening. I've got 2 enormous Norwegian forest cats. Huge. Important to the story. And basically, when they jump from upstairs, it is honest to God like, you know, a human, like a small child, has like jumped down. It's really quite noisy. So half the time if I hear anything, I'm usually like, okay, it's just Pookie. And Pookie is 13 kilograms. She's a big girl. So taking that in mind, I remember being in the living room. And I think I was watching the first season of bloody Stranger Things when it first came out. Oh, I'm so old. And I remember hearing this sound coming from the upstairs. There was only 2 bedrooms upstairs, that was it. And it sounded like someone kind of shuffling, you know. And I remember thinking, oh, that's a bit weird. But again, this was semi-detached. So I thought, maybe it's just next door and the acoustics are a bit weird. And then I kept hearing it coming down the stairs. And I was like, ooh, okay, that's getting a bit closer. And then it kind of stopped when it came to the corridor. I remember thinking, maybe my cat has got like sellotape attached to it. It's walking really weirdly. And then I remember kind of poking my head down because you could see all the way down to the bathroom because there was a bathroom at the bottom of the stairs. And I said it was the only one that was there. And I thought, and I remember thinking, I'm going mad. I honestly thought I had seen a head pop round where the stairs were. And I was like, nope, I'm going mad. I remember taking myself off for a very long walk. And then things started getting worse. My cats had this little play toy thing where it kind of looks like a figure of 8 and there's like a big flashing ball and you can tap it and it will flash. And that would just go off all the time, but you had to literally had to tap it. And I would look like an absolute madwoman. I used to like jump next to it and I used to be like, there has to be a logical reason. Maybe the batteries are low. This thing would be pushing, like it would be like going around its track. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell is happening in this house? I was hating life. And then I started seeing him more. I would consistently see an older man's head, predominantly hot. It can't see like that. And it would be mainly in my kitchen window when I'd be sitting in the living room. And I, at first, used to think maybe it's like a neighbour, because I lived in Suffolk, where God's waiting room. And I remember used to think that maybe it's an old man that's got lost. So I used to get up a lot and just like go into my garden to see if it was someone there, because we all had like gardens that would back onto each other. No one would be there. And then it started happening in the house. Things got confirmed for me in a very big way when my husband came to me and said that I needed to stop calling his name out in the middle of the night. And I remember thinking, what the hell are you on about? I'm asleep. I love my sleep. And he'd be like, yeah, you're just like constantly calling my name. And I'm like, I'm bloody not. I'm asleep. And he'd be like, yeah, you are. And then things started happening to me where I'd be upstairs, like on my laptop doing some work in my bedroom, and I'd hear someone at the bottom of the stairs saying, Annie, Annie. It didn't really sound like Callum, but it kind of did. So I remember just kind of like, hi. Nothing. It would just mimic and say my name or Callum's. Oh, it's just so horrible to think about. Ugh. And this would happen 2-3 times a week. Anytime. It could be the middle of the night, and that's when me and Callum would be like, oh my God, we're moving, we're going. And then we would sometimes hear, which in my opinion was personally weirdly the worst one, is where you're in the middle of the night and you know when you're like, you've just got to sleep, so you're kind of in that big deep sleep, you would hear someone, and when I say running up the top of the stairs, remember it was just stairs, our room, and then a room, so there wasn't even like really a hallway. It was so creepy. And this would happen, and again, a couple of times a night. And it would happen, it was on the latter end when we started like more openly addressing that we want to leave this house. Luckily we were renting, so we could just like F off and go, basically. When we had finally said to the landlord, like in the nicest way, we're going, this house is really creepy. Callum got a new job, and it was the night before we had left. So we had hired like this little van, packed all our shit. Good God, I have a lot of shit. And I thought, okay, fuck it. I'm rewarding myself with a shower. And, to this day, this really creeps me out. Basically, I forgot to open all the windows like an idiot. So I kind of had like the sauna experience in terms of bloody shower. I was facing the wall because it was one of those, you know, where showers face the wall. Duh. And it was like, you know when I was saying like, the feeling of someone watching you, it really came, like it really happened quickly, and I was like, ooh, that felt a bit horrible. Never really felt it in the bathroom. And then it was like someone had like slapped the shower head and it span, and I was just like, fuck this, grabbed a towel and I put it on me really tightly. And I turned around, and on the mirror, there was this huge fresh handprint. And that was just the biggest nope in the world for me. And I remember just literally like near screaming. I was like, Callum, fuck this. And I sat on the sofa, and I remember looking down, and I could see him like that round the corner of the stairs. And I remember grabbing my phone and taking a picture. And of course, I can't find this fucking picture, but I remember sending it to my brother and my mum and Callum. But again, this was all Snapchat, which I can't get access to because it's ancient, so I need to really bloody find it. But I got it as he was fading, because sometimes I would see him and he was like, how you're seeing me, and sometimes he was kind of like grey with a really dark sockety eyes. But yeah, let's safe to say we moved. I was only back there once for mail, but I sat in the car and I was just like, demon house, hated it.
Alright, story time of how my childhood home got haunted by a Ouija board. So this was like 10 years ago, but my mom used to work with like some really rich people, and they gave her a Ouija board. Like, why couldn't they give her $1 million instead? And like, she didn't want to be rude and not take it, you know, so she took it home, and she was planning on throwing it away. But then we read online that you're supposed to like gift it to someone, not throw it away, because it's bad luck. So maybe that's why they gave it to her. But my dad's friends were there when my mom took it home, and so they opened it, and then they started talking shit about it. They were like, ay, esta madre ni sirve, no hace nada, like, son puras mentiras, this and that. And then they closed it, so we never played it. But that was enough to open a motherfucking portal. The lights would turn on, the TVs would turn on. There's a couple of things that I'm never gonna forget. One of them was when my boyfriend at the time, went to the house, and we were gonna have a movie night. So we were gonna put a movie in the DVD player, and literally it moved. Like, it was in the middle of the table and it moved like that. Like, we saw it move. I thought I was crazy, but then he was like, what the fuck, did you see that? And I was like, yeah. Wait, I don't know why these things kind of get me excited. But then other things were, the room that I lived in used to be like a garage, so it was already kind of cold. But after this, I felt it even colder. Like, I would get chills, And then I never saw anything in there, but when I would wake up with bruises on my hand, and they would look like someone like grabbed my wrist so hard that it left a bruise. This was when my parents were like, oh, we're gonna take over your room, like you're gonna sleep in our room and we'll stay in your room. So one night while I was sleeping in my parents' room, I woke up like at 2 a.m. because I got the chorros, like I ate something and my stomach really hurt, so I went to the bathroom. So after getting out of the bathroom, I went back into my room and it was dark. I didn't have my glasses on, so I was extra blind. But I saw my mom laying down next, like on my bed. I was like, oh, she probably heard me go to the bathroom and she wanted to make sure I was okay, or she knows that I'm scared, so she came to lay down with me. And the reason I knew it was my mom was because when I laid like this, so my mom was like on this side, she hugged me and I felt her nails. And my mom has really long natural nails. Like everyone's always thinking she has acrylic, so they're very long and like pointy. So I knew it was my mom. I was like, my mom loves me. She came to lay down with me because she knows I'm a little scared. Bitch! The next day, I asked my mom if she went to go lay down with me and she said no! Okay, so I know I wasn't dreaming. That's a fucking fact because I remember going to the bathroom, taking a shit, and wiping my ass. Like, I was not dreaming. I don't know whose hand I was holding, but their nails were so long. Like, this was probably a demon or something. After that, I was touring the whole house. I went to go sleep with my sisters now because I was scared of my parents' room too. So while all of this was happening, my parents were still staying in my room. And one night, my mom heard a whisper. Like, she heard a man whispering in her ear. She said that her and my dad were watching a video and they both heard a whisper and they both looked at each other and they just like nodded that they heard it. They both heard it. She didn't understand what the whisper said, but after whatever the man said, all they heard was shh. And we used to have 2 small dogs. They would get so scared and they would just stand in the hallway and then just look like across the hallway. Like if someone was standing there, they would just stare and like temblaban, like they would shiver, like you know when dogs are scared, they would do that. My tia actually used to live across the street from us, and one day me and my sisters were just so over it because the blender turned on again, the licuadora, and the energy just felt so off that we like started crying and we ran out like to the street. And my tia saw us, so she went inside her home and she got her bottle of agua bendita. She went into our house and she started praying and cussing at the ghost or the demon, whatever it was. And she started throwing agua bendita. Yeah, she went all Lorraine Warren on this ghost. And after this, nothing ever happened. But after all of this, I don't even know what happened to the Ouija board. Okay, bye.
Ready with me while I tell you the story time about the time I did a Ouija board. Oh my god, it's almost Halloween. And me and my 4 friends did a Ouija board and it was actually terrifying. So if you don't believe in them, bitch, I'm about to tell you something that maybe will make you believe in them. And if it still doesn't make you believe in them, I don't know what to tell you because we were literally like 15. We were always trying to get into some bad shit. And we were always getting ourselves scared as hell. I'm gonna use real names for this story time specifically because I'm still cool with literally everyone in them except for one girl. One girl will be named Amber. Okay, so growing up, me and all my friends used to go hang out at my friend Bailey's house because she had a basement and it was cool and we could smoke schmeat, could sneak out, like her parents were so cool. They always had the best snacks and they also had a Ouija board. And we found this out like at 15, 16. And a couple of us were like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. But I honestly had no frontal lobe and I had literally the feeling that I was invincible. So I was like, yeah, let's do the fucking Ouija board and let's really fuck with it. Let's really do it at 3 a.m. in the basement, which we already thought her house was haunted. Her sister would like wake up, her little sister, by the way. And you know when it's a kid being weird, you're like, oh, okay, now I'm gonna run away forever. Her little sister would wake up in the middle of the night and just cry in the bathroom in her sleep. Or like walk into the basement and just stand there and stare. Eleanor. So we were like, let's get this Ouija board out. And she had like this like lore about this Ouija board. I don't know if it was real or if her mom was trying to mess with us, but basically her mom said she like burned the Ouija board or like buried it and ended up back in the house somehow. I'm sure that her mom was just trying to mess with us, but it still was scary. So, oh my God. So many of us were like, okay, let's do this Ouija board and let's try to contact our dead family. And our friend Cece had a dad that had passed away. Pretty tragically as well. So she was kind of like, I want to talk to him. And I had wanted to talk to my sister's ex-husband that had passed away. We were like, let's contact these spirits. So we get on there and we say hi. Boop, boop. Hi. First, I'm like, okay, these bitches are fucking with me. This is not actually doing this. Like, I really did not believe it. Then we were all like, put your pinky fingers on it. Like, put your pinky fingers on it and let's talk to him. We had been already talking to it for like an hour. They had said some things like, yes, I'm here, I love you, some certain things that probably they couldn't know, but maybe one of the friends did. One of the friends were like messing with us, like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well then things got weird. And me and Bailey were like, let's do this by ourselves, me and you. We have a pact that we're not moving this together. Put our pinky fingers on here and stare at each other while we do this. And we did. Girl, what the fuck? Started asking it questions. We said like, are you real? And it was like, yes. And then we were like, okay, so are you a human? And they were like, yes. And we were like, how old are you? And it said like 8 years old. And we were like, oh my God, you're a baby. How did you die? And it was like, mommy drowned me in the tub. Okay, so what the fuck? And then we were like, spell your name. And it said Zaza. Okay, we Googled that. When you Google that, there are things like Zaza Zozo that are like really well known for, meaning put your fucking Ouija board away because there's like a demon. And again, I didn't really believe this. I was just kind of like, shut up, shut up. We are alone in the house. We are 15. We start hearing upstairs. Upstairs, we're in the basement. We hear that we're home alone. There's no one there besides her little sister that is asleep. So we go up there and we go look for her and she's sleeping. Start screaming. I call my mom. I'm like, we're coming home. We had lived right down the street from Bailey. Are screaming our lungs off. We have never been this scared in our entire life. So we start running to my house barefoot with her little sister in our arms. We get to my house and then our friend Amber goes, fuck you, Amber. I didn't really believe in any of it, so I just was banging my feet upstairs so that you guys would be scared. So that kind of was like the comedic relief, but all that other stuff actually happened. Like, we really heard Zaza. There was really some 8-year-old boy saying something crazy. Probably wasn't actually an 8-year-old boy, but I know Bailey wasn't tricking me. We both had our pinkies on there. We were both looking at each other. We couldn't spell things without, like, looking. So that was scary. We did it again with our feet, and we disrespected the spirits, and it was even scarier. I'm not gonna tell that story. It was scarier. It was weird and scary. Happy Halloween. Don't do a Ouija board, and if you do, don't.
Well, that wraps up our creepy story time for today. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. That way I can keep giving you guys what you guys are looking for. And I know you're a part of the Hoodlum family, so I know we're locked in. And of course, if you guys have any of your own creepy encounters, make sure that you either leave them down in the comments, email them in, something. But let me know, because I have been featuring y'all stories right here on the channel for Mystic Monday. If y'all don't know what that is my new podcast. Because a lot of you guys have said that you wanted a podcast. That way you can listen to the stories while you're doing other things, which nothing wrong with that, because I enjoy a good podcast myself. I wanted to make sure that I give you guys what you were asking for. So make sure that you guys send those stories in so I can feature them here on the channel, because some of the stories that you guys have sent so far are extremely juicy and I cannot wait to feature them. So I do apologize for going dark last Monday for Mystic Monday, but don't worry, I might have 2 coming up for this Monday just to make up for last week. And continue to interact down in the comments. I appreciate a lot of the feedback from you guys, whether it's from the vlogs, whether it's from the compilations, or even the lives that we've done together and we chat. I appreciate the interaction. So let me know what you guys are wanting to see. If you guys are wanting more folklore, if you guys are wanting more creepy stories, if you guys are wanting more podcast episodes, because I might start doing more for my podcast listeners outside of Mystic Monday. So just let me know what you guys are looking for so I can keep giving y'all what y'all want. Because I enjoy the community over here and it's only growing, which means it's only going to get better. But until next time, be sure to drink your water, mind your business, and stay prayed up and protected. And as always, Luna loves you. I'll be back with another video for you guys if the spirits allow it.
Give it right back, did they give it right back? This look, baby, can I sit right back? Wanna give it right back, baby, yeah, like that,